Hey guys, I'm the 50s Kid. It's Wednesday, it's whatever Wednesday. This is the day when I do basically anything that's not a repair video. And I just got something in. I just got a new tool in. I'm really excited. I can't wait to show you guys. But I thought I would actually maybe turn that unboxing, such as it is, into kind of a longer video about a favorite topic of mine, which is flex head ratchets. So let's go take a look. Okay, mystery tool just arrived. What is it? Any guesses? It is a snap-on ratchet. That's right. It is the snap-on FHX80A that is now made in the USA again. USA. Apparently, they stopped making this particular ratchet, the old FHX80, in the USA. They tested the waters and started making them in China or Taiwan. I think parts of them in Taiwan for a time. And then everybody really complained. There are a bunch of videos on YouTube about it. And so now it's made in the USA again. So that's really cool. And so this is a locking flex head ratchet. The flex head is really stiff, which is great because the thing that sucks about flex head ratchets is they start to get floppy after a little while. You know, the ratcheting action feels ultra smooth, which is this thing that that is a thing that people really care about. I don't care about it as much. I mean, I don't want it to sound real cheap and flimsy on the inside, but you know, that's kind of a thing that's not that important to me. I like ratchets that have on/off written on them, you know, rather than nothing at all, or rather than left or right. I'm not sure if there are ratchets that have left and right, but to me, you know, left and right is kind of, you know, it's a little more confusing than on off. You know, I have to kind of, you know, go back in my head and picture, okay, left, which way is left and which way is right, and then which way is on and off, and taking something on or putting something on. And it takes me a split second longer than, oh, on means you're putting something on, off means you're taking something off. I can just, that translates directly in my brain faster than left, right, or nothing at all. Because I never have that memorized on a ratchet, which way you need to flick it if you want to go off and which way you need to flick it if you want to go on. I just don't have that memorized because there are certain ratchets that reverse that, you know? So the locking mechanism, the cool thing about this is you can disable it. It doesn't have to lock if you don't want to. You can just make it a flex head ratchet, which is really great. I think that alone right there is the feature that sold it for me. There's no other locking flex head that I know of that does that. So you just click it back and it's locked again. Push it down and you can just unlock it. And the cool thing about the lock here is it's not flimsy at all. This lock is about the same as the ratcheting pawls on the inside here. You can see that it's got these little indents right here, and it's got a little pawl thing that engages with that. So this is not going to come loose. Let me give you a comparison on a much worse kind of locking flex head ratchet. So here are the other two flex head ratchets that I have. This is the first one that I got. It's a GearWrench 84 tooth, and you know, the ratcheting mechanism is fine as far as I'm concerned. I like GearWrench ratchets, to be quite honest with you. GearWrench is from Apex Tool Group, which is who has made Craftsman tools forever. So it's basically the same thing. This is like a Craftsman level quality tool. It's a little loose here. The head is kind of getting a little loose. I haven't tightened the screw up at all. That's probably why. Yeah. So that's a little loose at this point. So I just tightened it, but I can still feel it rattling around in there. It's almost like there's a little too much clearance where the bolt goes through, or, you know, Maybe there always was that amount of clearance, I don't remember, but you know, this is a tool that I've used for quite a while now, so I'm giving you the used tool review and how it's kind of stood up. I'll tell you, the worst thing about this is the locking mechanism. I mean, yeah, it does have the ability to disengage, and I like the fact that it has this sort of pawl mechanism where it's just not going to completely flop, but you can see it still completely flops anyway. You know, that spring in there has just gotten really, really loose, and it's just kind of sucks. And the lock, not a lock at all. Not a lock. It just, you can unlock it, you know. Sometimes it holds, but it's a little too easy to unlock. So not a fan of this particular ratchet at all, sadly. Like I said, I do like GearWrench, and you know, it's got the on-off thing, just like Snap-on ratchet has. And it's the same way. The on and the off are on the same side. So, you know, I liked this ratchet at first, and it wasn't very expensive at all, but I kind of stopped using it just because the locking thing was just kind of pointless. So let's move on to my Pittsburgh Professional ratchet, which honestly, for the money, I find it really hard to bash this ratchet because, you know, it's basically a $25 or $23 ratchet, and you know, after the 20% off, it's like under $20, and it's really, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's impossible to beat this ratchet as far as price goes. It's really, really nice. The only thing I dislike about it is the head gets really, really loose after a while. When you first buy it, it's actually pretty stiff, but it gets really, really loose after a while. And the thing is, this bolt, I assure you, this bolt is tight. And if I tighten it anymore, it will strip out on this end. And this is the third one I'm on, you know, because they do have a lifetime warranty. If something goes wrong with it, you can just go in and they'll replace it for free. This is my third one. You know, this problem keeps happening, and it's a little annoying, but you just keep getting a free one, so that's pretty nice. I don't live very far from a Harbor Freight, so hey, I'm happy with that part. And the ratcheting action is fine. Again, is fine. I don't know why people are so obsessed with the ratcheting action thing. I mean, maybe it's just an aesthetic thing, or you know, you just like the sound to your ear. I mean, this one's obviously quieter. This one's way, way quieter. I'll tell you that right now. And I guess if you are a professional and you're wrenching at it all day, maybe you don't want it to offend your ears. I really have no idea. But I'm just telling you things that besides looks and you know, the ratcheting action, I want to tell you other practical things that I noticed that I think are annoying or better, or features that are good or bad. The one thing, and this also has an off and on, by the way, this one happens to be reversed from the GearWrench and the Snap-on, which again, I don't care. I just kind of look. You know, like I said, I don't have it memorized, and you know, sometimes I just look, or most of the time I look to see which way I want to go. What annoys me about this one is that this can too easily be moved to the center, and then basically it's loose, you know, before it engages. These other ones, they actually have a snap to them. You have to push hard, and you can't get in the, okay, but the Snap-on, you can actually get in the middle, which I wouldn't have thought you would be able to do. So, hey, that's kind of an interesting thing about the Snap-on. With the GearWrench, very hard to get in the middle. It's either on or off. When I'm in the middle, it wants to go one way or the other. So that's actually kind of a feature that I particularly like. I like the fact that it needs to be stiff. It needs to be difficult to accidentally bump and move, okay? So that's one particular feature that I like. But the one good thing about the Pittsburgh wrench, which I'm just going to point out right here, is it's way longer than the Snap-on wrench, which is actually pretty useful. You know, the more leverage you have, the better to get bolts off. I happen to use a 3/8 socket set that goes all the way up to 22. I got one of the master sets. So I use 3/8 for almost everything when it comes to hand tools. And it's really nice when you're busting off larger bolts with, you know, 17, 18, 19 size bolts. It's nice to have that long leverage. In fact, you need that long leverage. You're not going to get those bolts off with a regular size ratchet. It just kind of doesn't happen. And by the way, guys, I realize it's ridiculous to compare a Pittsburgh to a Snap-on. I get it. This cost me $168, and this cost me $20. $168 though. Wow. You know, I was pretty darn sure it was going to come with a free blowjob. You should have seen the face of the UPS girl when I opened the door naked. Anyway. So I decided just now to go and exchange the Pittsburgh for a brand new one. And here was my thought. What I did was I disassembled it before I left, and this little spring washer right here, this is what's in here. This is what's like actually making the tension. This is just like a little spring washer thing. And I had previously pulled it out and kind of bent it more such that it would have more tension to it, you know, put it in, tighten it up. And, you know, that didn't really help things. This is how stiff it should be. Like, you know, I'm pressing and it's really stiff, right? So my thought was, you know, maybe I'll just put 2 of these in there. I'll just go get another one, put 2 of these in there to make it even stiffer. But then I pulled this thing apart and I discovered something very surprising. Look at what's in there now. Can we see that? That is a different part than this. So Harbor Freight has improved this tool. This is an actual rounded spring that's bent outward like this. So it's definitely way thicker than this previous one. Way thicker. So I'm damn impressed with that. Like, Harbor Freight actually improved a tool. I'm kind of shocked that they did that. I mean, that is really, really cool of them. It's actually somewhat difficult to get this back in, which is good. The more difficult, the more robust it is, I think. So this screw, it had a little bit of blue Loctite on it. Okay. And I'm going to leave the blue Loctite on it. This screw is not, you know, this screw getting loose is really not what makes this thing loose. It all has to do with the tension of that little spring inside there. The blue Loctite is just to keep the screw from backing out and falling out. But yeah, so I'm super duper impressed that they improved that part. That might make this like twice as good. I mean, before, the fact that it was getting so floppy was just you know, that was a deal breaker for me. But now this is no longer a deal breaker. I guess I'm gonna have to use this as much as I use this in order to really give it a good test. It still has a really loose locking, you know, switching mechanism. So that's kind of, you know, that's kind of a sucky thing. I'm hoping that doesn't, it's probably going to get as loose as it did before. So maybe that's the only thing that still needs some improvement. But you know what? I could live with that. If this was my only ratchet at this point, I would be totally happy. But yeah, so that's that thing. So I forgot to talk about strength. As far as the strength on this thing goes, it's obviously not going to be the same as a Snap-on ratchet. I mean, that's just obvious, right? We all realize that. A Snap-on obviously is built to be able to abuse, although I don't know that there are that many people who are abusing, and I can't imagine you're going to stick like a cheater bar onto the end of your really expensive Snap-on ratchet. I mean, that's why you have a Craftsman in your toolbox if you're a professional, just to abuse that for the rare cases when you do need to do something like that. But you know, look at how long this one is. You know, they made this thing, I think that they made this just about as long as they possibly could without making it, you know, extremely weak, and you know, because they don't want you to come back in and they don't want to have to keep replacing this for free, you know, because it keeps snapping and breaking because it was overbuilt or underbuilt for its length. I think they made this as long as they possibly could and they made it strong enough to be able to work for this length. I got to tell you, just using this without trying to abuse it, without putting a cheater bar on it, I've never broken this. I've never, it's never felt like it's going to fail on me. It's basically, if I get to the situation where I need more leverage and I need some, to put a cheater bar on something, I'm not going to use a 3/8 inch ratchet. I'm going to step up to a 1/2 inch. That I think that almost everybody would. Like, for example, on a Honda crank bolt, I used my 1/2 inch Craftsman when I did that Honda timing job, the V6 Honda timing belt video, in order to break loose the crank pulley bolt, which is like, it's almost 200 foot-pounds, or maybe it's a little over 200 foot-pounds, I forget. I used my 1/2 inch Craftsman for that. And I got to tell you, I do have this 1/2 inch Pittsburgh that's not flex, and I've seen a video where someone has like put this thing in a vise and he's put a really long breaker bar on, or he's put a really long cheater pipe on it, and he's tried to crank it and it did not break. So I would use this one to get off a crank pulley bolt as well. I know that this one can do quite a bit of torque. I don't know how much torque this one can take before it snaps off, but like I said, I'm not trying to, overdo it with this one. This is just for, your average everyday stuff that you're doing around the car. I can get something off that, with it's got quite a bit of length, it's got quite a bit of torque, and it can get things off with the torque that it has. I've never tried to abuse it, and I don't think that I ever would. But anyway, yeah, it's plenty strong for just anything that you can throw at it. It's probably not strong enough to abuse, but it's strong enough to use. That is for sure. But of course, this video is all about the Snap-on, or it's not all about the Snap-on, I suppose, because it's been a lot about this ratchet. I'm sorry, this has been my daily user for a long time now, so I've got a lot to say about it. And, I really highly recommend this one. That you just can't beat this one for the price. And now that they've fixed this, I think it's extremely usable. So this is probably going to go in the junkyard tool bag, because this is the perfect thing to take to a junkyard, and this is not. So this will stay in the toolbox here, and I'll use this here in the garage, and I'll just use this at the junkyard, and that way I'll get some good use out of this still. But yeah, this is the new one. This is the new crown jewel. Really happy about it. And so that's the look at it. Hopefully it will serve me really well. I love that push down and move off to the side thing to just sort of unlock it. Really love that. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, guys.